Jordy here for Cinecom.net, and I bet that you'd like to learn how to become a better filmmaker. And the sooner, the better. Unfortunately, it's not like learning how to make spaghetti. It's a lot more complex, so it takes years to master. Luckily, there are a few tips that I can share with you, which hopefully speeds up that process. And the most obvious is probably practice. But how do you practice if you're just by yourself, and what exactly do you practice? Well, start off with the cutting. Basically, this is the way a certain scene is cut. For example, a conversation between two people. And you can just use two objects for that. Anything, a doll, a teddy bear, doesn't matter. Now imagine that these two teddy bears here have a conversation. Look at the different angles that you can shoot this from. Make sure to have a long shot, a close-up, perhaps an extreme close-up. Try different angles, different heights, then cut the scene together and see for yourself what works. You can also take references from movies, see how they cut up a scene and try to recreate that with your teddy bears. I know it looks ridiculous, but it's a great way to learn, and you can use this tip for other filmmaking techniques as well. For instance, we have a mannequin in the studio, and when I have some extra time, I'd like to experiment with lighting. I don't need an actual film project for that. A doll is perfect. Tip number 2, feedback is super important in your journey to becoming a better filmmaker. But how exactly do you get valuable feedback? Well, for starters, don't ask feedback with every single video you make. Ask for feedback on those projects where you spend the most time and effort on, something that you're really proud of. If it's a video that you believe already failed, then don't bother asking for feedback. You want to deliver something that you think is good. Now, there are 3 kinds of people who can give you feedback. Those who don't know anything about filmmaking, usually friends and family, but their feedback is actually very important. It's the same audience that goes to the movies and like or dislike a film. They are not going to give you technical feedback, but they can tell you what their experience was watching your video. Did the story make sense? Was it pleasing to watch? Those questions can be answered from that kind of audience. The second group are other filmmakers. They can give you technical feedback. A great place for that are online communities. There are Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, forums, so many different places. But make sure to always ask a direct question, such as, how was my lighting? What do you think of the camera work? Otherwise, people don't often know how to give feedback and you'll end up with less reactions. And then the final group are the trolls. These people usually tell you that you just suck. Now, it's easy to bash on other people if you're only saying what's bad without giving actual feedback. So simply just ignore this group. Seriously, don't even reply back to them. Some people are just toxic and we can't do anything about that. Focus on the people that actually give valid criticism on your work without calling you names. On my latest short film, there are some comments from people that didn't like it, but they told me in a respectful way, sharing actual feedback on how they would do it better. And that is extremely valuable, and I'm very thankful to those. Now, I also got a few comments telling me what kind of loser I am and that I should go well, that's just part of the internet. Don't give attention to that. Ignore and move on. Now, since filmmaking is such a broad craft, it means that you can't learn everything. And that's why some focus on cinematography, others on editing or visual effects, and if you're a one-man band, then our sponsor Storyblocks is here for you. Whether you need a gorgeous cinematic shot in 4K quality, a complex visual animation, quick transitions, overlay effects, you name it, and they have it. Storyblocks is an ever-growing library packed with over 1 million video assets. Stock clips are really great to add just the right insert or opening shots to your videos. It can lift up the quality with a simple download. You don't need knowledge of After Effects, their templates are very easy to use and a great addition to your videos. And if you don't like your download, don't worry, just download something else. There are no restrictions. With an active subscription, you can download unlimited video assets. I can highly recommend it to check it out as well, guys, which you can do by clicking the first link in the description down below. That was a bonus tip. Alright, tip number 3, make breakdowns. Whenever you're watching a film and you're intrigued about the lighting, then just pause the film, take a notebook and try to figure out where the lights are coming from, what colors they have, their softness. It's a great way to learn about lighting and it gives you great ideas. However, if you're watching a film with your spouse, it might not be a good idea. That's from experience, guys. Now, when you're later on set, those lighting setups will pop back into your mind. Definitely if you're about to light something similar. And for the details, you can take your notebook. That's mostly how I learned it. At film school, we barely saw anything about lighting, so I had to teach it myself. And doing such breakdowns while watching films was super helpful. And of course, you can do the same thing with camera movement, with direction, with art direction, anything that interests you. Just pause the film and write it down in your notebook. Tip number 4, plan your shoot. You might be able to pull off an entire shoot without preparations, but you'll definitely put in your brain to work the entire day. You'll need to think about the shots, the lighting, the story, so many factors. Now imagine if you already have a planning, a rough sketch of the different camera angles where you'll put the lights. Now you just follow that planning on set and you can use your brain for other stuff, like for the details. And great cinematography is all about such details. So the quicker that you can start thinking about that, the faster that you will learn the craft. Even for our routine videos here on YouTube, we still plan. This allows us to focus on the details. And that brings us to the last tip, set up targets and deadlines. At film school, you have a trajectory, but if you're learning it all by yourself, you don't have a schedule and a teacher telling you what the next chapter is. So try to make such a trajectory for yourself. Set up goals and a deadline for when you want to achieve those goals. Let me give you a proper example. I've got one of such trajectories right here, guys. I made it especially for Janik and Lorenzo, who both started working here without having experience. Now, each block right here is a specific competence. For example, camera, sound, scenario writing, etc. And I write down the goal. What do I want to achieve with camera? For instance, learning how to make compositions and frame properly, or working with a gimbal, or perhaps knowing the technical stuff if you have never shot in manual mode before. Write down as many goals that you can think of for every craft there is within filmmaking. And once done, you make a timeline and create deadlines for when you want to achieve these goals. This trajectory was 6 months, but feel free to take a year or even longer. Basically, what you're doing is making your own film school. Just show up in class and try to reach your goals before the deadline. Be strict about it to yourself and you will learn filmmaking a whole lot faster. Now, I understand that it's not easy to make such a trajectory yourself if you don't know anything about filmmaking yet. So I've done that for you. You can download a free PDF from a link in the description down below, and it includes all the fundamental goals that you need to learn. Some of them might not make sense yet, then just try search the word on YouTube and I hope that you can find a tutorial about it. Or if you'd like to speed up that process again, definitely check out our courses to learn filmmaking in a structured and guided way. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you, Storyblocks, for the support. And as always, stay creative. This is a very interesting roadmap. Sometimes I'm thinking about it, guys. Should I become like a real teacher? I mean, I'm teaching right now on YouTube, but I mean like a licensed teacher. That probably means I have to teach kids as well, right? Never mind. I love YouTube. Let's just stick it to YouTube.